It's loading up right now. Looks like we're going soon.
Okay.
I'll have my my team confirm in the background.
They're like online with us.
We're online right now, man. We're live on Facebook and YouTube right now.
Nice.
Awesome. All right, so let's get right into it. I got confirmation from our podcast producer that we are good to go.
Let's do it.
Here we go. So I wanted to bring another exciting guest onto the show, and Mitch was welcoming to go in live as well, which we thought we would just have a really cool conversation about some of the stuff that he's doing in the legal profession and also podcasting.
Sure.
And he has a podcast, which I'll mention here in a second, that he wanted to bring me on and talk about IT and cybersecurity and all this stuff. So without further ado, let me introduce Mitch.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Anthony. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Mitch Beinhacker is the founder of Beinhacker Law, located in Clark, New Jersey, and he's focused on wills, estates, and business services. He's also the creator and host of the Accidental Entrepreneur podcast, where Mitch interviews successful business owners and professionals to help people achieve success in business on purpose and avoid failing by accident. Mitch, welcome.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
I like this live stuff. This is fun. It's like naked, but not afraid, you know?
Exactly. You got to be careful because you can't post-produce the live session. So Mitch and I got connected through a mutual connection, and we had a really good conversation, and we were just going back and forth. I was checking out his website. We were just vibing. And one of the things that I really liked about Mitch and his website, if you go there, is he leads with the header image, which says a new kind of legal practice, client-focused, automated, and digital.
Yeah.
And it just really caught me by surprise because Domain's marketing team does a bunch of websites for law firms all over the place and other companies in general. And I just thought Mitch had such an interesting take that you don't typically see, especially in the legal profession. So Mitch, I'm going to let you run with that.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you being that complimentary. I find that a lot of, and maybe this is true for a lot of professions, but let's stick with law specifically, a lot of their websites are very cookie cutter, you know, and they're not really good resources for clients. I mean, sure, they could look you up and they have these pages that talk about the areas in law that they practice. But you and I both know we could do Google searches to find information on any of those topics. So it begged the question when I went back out on my own back in the middle of 19 and I was rebuilding my site that, you know, and I'm still rebuilding my site. I'll admit that we're redoing a lot of stuff, but you know, what's it there for? And what kind of business does exist out in cyberspace? And how should a customer or a client interact with let's say a small law firm, right? Because the larger firms are dealing with corporate America, they're dealing with larger clients. They may not be interacting too much, you know, through their website, but I felt that it should be more accessible to the average customer. So the first thing I did was to build a digital platform, meaning everything is virtual for the most part, right? So all of the documents that I have, all of the files that I put together for clients are all on the web. They're secure up in Google. I don't sync them, so they're encrypted up there. You know, there's no HIPAA issues. And if somebody needs something, I can even pull it up on my phone. I don't even need a laptop, you know, to do it. So I think the old world, the old school thinking that you call your lawyer and you say, hey, I need a copy of my deed. I need a copy of this, copy of that. And they go and they, you know, press that button on the little box and say, Janet or Robert, could be either one. Can you pull the McGillicuddy's file and pull that in? And then they bring the file and he pulls that and he goes, here, can you copy this and mail them a copy? Right? Because something could happen between now and then, including death, before they get this in today's world, right? So I didn't want to be that attorney. I wanted everything to be available. And as a matter of fact, one of the services I've implemented for clients is an online vault where the clients can maintain their own documents, wills, trusts, deeds, business agreements, There's I give them a discount on certain types of work. We have an annual review, and there's even some emergency healthcare type of features to it, right? So no longer are you like, I mean, if you're sophisticated enough to use the web, you can get it yourself. You don't necessarily have to call me. So that was the one portion. And I felt that it kind of all feeds into the client focused, portion of it, that we're not just practicing law, but I'm kind of doing it, with a purpose. The automated side of it is a little bit different. I added a section of the website that allows me to automate a lot of the basic processes. You need a basic business agreement. You need a basic will. You need a basic lease where you can go on for half the price I charge. I built a system where you input the data, it merges it into my documents. I get them, clean them up, send them to you with signing instructions, and you can take it from there and save half the money. If you want to get me involved in signing, there's another charge for that, but you're still saving a fair amount of money if you're willing to stick with the, boilerplate cookie cutter type of documents. If you need to get into custom work, then it's a little bit, then you got to go back to the regular schedule. But I have people that don't want to use what's the service?
LegalZoom or something.
Yeah, you don't get a lawyer. I just want people to know that you don't get a lawyer when you sign up for LegalZoom. It's a do-it-yourself service. This, you're hiring me to be your lawyer. So, and obviously you have to be in New Jersey, but that's the automated portion.
I absolutely love that. Like one of my things I wanted to go over with you was exactly this, right? The embracing of the do-it-yourself. And I just love that you've used technology and you've embraced it to do it, because like we talked about on our first call together, it was like, it's the same thing that people get scared about, like AI or machine learning or whatnot.
Right.
And are they going to take away these professions? Like one of the big ones I've been following right now is the AI that's been being produced out of a nonprofit out of California. And it's doing a lot of great work in terms of copywriting, headlines, ads, blog posts, all of this kind of stuff.
Right.
And people could argue, well, that's taking away the profession. It's taking away the creativeness and the expertise of an individual. And like my thoughts on it is just that I think it could enhance that person. I think it could allow that person to do more work, actually.
Of course.
And I love that you're not shying away from LegalZoom. You know the pitfalls of LegalZoom and those different providers that are like that. And even for somebody like myself, my young family, whatever, I know inherently there's a reason LegalZoom is LegalZoom.
Right.
And I don't necessarily want that. I want the kind of basic aspect of it, but I still want Mitch to look over things, sign off on things, and have a conversation with me.
Right.
And I love how you're just embracing that in one.
I think the fallacy, like you were getting to, is that, like giving it away, right? So you create an ebook about cybersecurity, which we'll get into a little bit later, or I create an ebook about mistakes you make as a business owner, whatever. I'm not taking away from my profession. I mean, the people that are going to read that and try and do it themselves are probably not people that would be our clients anyway. Yep. And sharing information and educating people helps them to make a decision where they go, you know what? Anthony, Mitch know what they're talking about, and I want to call them. I don't need clients to struggle to pay me, nor do you need them to do that. Yeah. Some people have to do it. I've had people come to me, and I think on the web, let's say it's $1,250. I'm not exactly sure the price, but $1,250 living wills, powers of attorney, husband and wife, right? LegalZoom is less than that. Obviously, there's no lawyer involved. That's how it's less than that. But maybe it's $500, $600, whatever it is. There's a reason that it's less than that. And there are some people that I've been sent that can't afford even the $1,200. Now, it begs the question of what value you put on your protection of your family, but people have budget constraints. So I said, listen, I don't know what to tell you. Go to LegalZoom, go to Rocket Lawyer. You get what you get. Yeah. And there are people out there that are going to need to do those things. So I think embracing that, like you said, and being open to the fact that helping people is a good thing.
Yeah.
The other people, when my old firm and my old different partnership, they're like, well, we shouldn't do that. You give that away. People aren't going to need us. That is not happening.
Yeah.
People are going to be their own lawyer. It's not happening.
Exactly. This kind of goes right into my thought on gated content versus non-gated content. And you could think about this marketing. I think about it as yourself, as myself, right? And it's the thoughts of like, well, if I put all the information out there, if I share all the ways that we configure a firewall, if I share all the ways that what antivirus we use, it's going to take away from it. No, it's not. It's going to allow the people that want to do business with you to be fully comfortable and trust you and
Right.
build that relationship in their research phase of deciding who they want to move forward with. And the people that, maybe there's an IT CIO out there that wanted a true recommendation on what antivirus to use. He or she is going to take that and go implement it themselves anyway.
And you know what? Something's going to come up where they need to call you, or their friend needs such and such. And you go, you know what? I got this free information from Anthony. He worked for us. You ought to reach out to him. And that's what happens in the world,
Love it.
Short-sighted,
so
yeah.
You took two of my questions right away, which is good. I'm going to pause there because my final one has to do around something else. And I'm going to let you ask me some questions and kind of flip the script. And talk to me a little bit about cybersecurity, what your thoughts are, or what you want information on for your audience.
Yeah, definitely. Well, maybe you could tell me a little bit about, because I know we talked a little bit about it off the mic, but your background and how you got into, because obviously when I was growing, I'm a little bit older than you, but when cybersecurity wasn't really an issue, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't until the world all went online and became connected that it really became a big issue. So how did you end up getting into the area you're in now?
Yeah, great question. So I started my entire career in commercial insurance. So I worked for a large commercial insurance company, actually based right out of here, called Philadelphia Insurance Companies.
Sure.
Nationwide company. They have niche industries. So they actually are the first ones that instilled in me the niche focus of business.
I think I had a policy with Philadelphia when I owned a 4-family house.
Yeah, you definitely did, probably.
Yeah.
So anyway, I started with them, and I graduated from Rutgers with an economics degree back in 2011, and I kind of forced, with the financial collapse, my need to get an internship. Philadelphia Insurances was hiring, got in and spent 2 to 3 years just interning with them, and then a full-time job from there. They moved me around a little bit, ended up on out in Long Island, and was working with agents and brokers. So their distribution model is to work with retail insurance agencies and brokerages all over the country.
But you weren't doing technology at that point, were you?
No. So I was doing straight property and casualty. So, all the general liabilities, all that kind of stuff, right? And what we would do is we brought out, in about 2012, I believe it was, we brought out our first Philadelphia Insurance's first cyber insurance standalone policy.
Got it.
And as a young buck at the time who couldn't talk about property or GL like some of these agency owners who had been doing it for 30 to 40 years,
right,
I knew I wasn't going to go in there and impress them with that knowledge because they would just run me over. So I really just took up cyber insurance, the policy, read every line of it, and then knew how to help them, those retail brokerages, sell it to then their end customers. And that's kind of how I got started in the cyber world, was from the cyber policies.
Oh, so you became an expert in a niche, kind of.
Exactly. It was, I could have those conversations and feel confident about it. And
right,
they also didn't want to learn it. They wanted to talk about property and workers' comp and GL,
right,
and, business auto, and which they could, and I could come in and help them with this. So that's where I get started. Eventually, I actually worked for the New Jersey State Bar Association and their legal malpractice program with USI Affinity.
Sure.
And same thing. Hey, I can speak about professional liability, legal malpractice, but also you all should be considering cyber insurance, and here's why. So developed that a little bit further within the legal niche, and then went on to do cyber for larger organizations. So universities, hospital systems, publicly traded tech companies, and that's where I really got into the gamut of all these different policies, all this language, and how they're different. And then what really happened is I kind of just, was like, I was thinking about my father's business at the time. He has a small business. And I was like, if I really want to protect these small and medium-sized businesses, instead of being the insurance, which is behind the scenes after an incident happens,
right,
there's really good providers out there. At the time, I didn't even know what they were called managed IT service providers, that the good ones, the ones that are offer premium services and consulting and all of that, if customers listen to them, they will not fully protect themselves, but 95% of the way get there. And And I was like, that's actually would be better, more beneficial for these businesses than the policy after the shit hits the fan. Excuse my language.
Right.
So yeah, it was the standard conversation. I had been networking with some MSPs at the time to do the remediation work or introduce us to still get the cyber policy because it is still needed. And the owner of our company currently, we had developed that relationship, and eventually one day on LinkedIn reached out and said, let's go. It's time, Anthony. So that was the moment in time. But yeah, that's how I got my start in cyber and insurance and even IT.
You know, I think there's a good lesson to be learned from that, because we talk to a lot of people about niching in their particular business. So you meet people that are, let's use the insurance business, for example, right? So property and casualty, personal lines, property and casualty liability, all that type of stuff. Well, I do everything. I can do anything for a business owner. Yeah, but if you're not a specialist, if you don't pick a lane, then you're no different than anyone else in your particular industry. And with the competition that exists in the small business world nowadays, if you and I got a license and we went into property and casualty, that would be great, but we wouldn't be any different than anybody else. So I think it's a good lesson to learn that I hear people on networking calls and meetings I go to, whenever, that they're trying to say that they can do anything in their industry. They don't want to alienate anybody in the room. They want everybody to know they can do anything with me. I'm a business lawyer. I can handle everything, but I don't hold it out. I don't hold myself out that way. And, and you saw very early on, and I think people should learn from that. You actually expand your opportunities by being a specialist.
Yeah, I completely, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. If there's anything, I realized that there was a lane that I could play in where I could add some expertise or at least some specialization to people that were well outmatched for me at my age and time and experience at the time. And then I picked it and ran with it because I just had a lot of fun with it. I was loving it. I knew it was new and upcoming and all of that kind of stuff. And just seeing the damages that could happen on the insurance side from this stuff, I started to learn business impact and all of that. And yeah, now I can talk to a financial services company, a publicly traded company, and I can stay right in my lane. This is what I know.
Right. So when you made the transition over to the data world, really, how did you do that? Was that more of your background? You left the insurance business, right? So you're totally dealing with managing networks, really, email systems, right?
Yep. So for me, it was picking the right partner and somebody that was really doing it well and had a reputation of doing it well. So I found that, luckily. And then from there, it's actually one of the interesting things. I just recently figured this out is I didn't have to, in the insurance world, I had to read every single insurance policy. So I had to do a deep dive analysis on the customer's cyber insurance policy.
Right.
I had to come back with all the solutions and fixes to it.
Right, because that's all contract. The language controls everything.
Yup. So then I had to go out and market it to new insurance companies, get better terms, and then sell it, market it, all that kind of stuff. The cool thing about this was I could go out and speak about cyber and from a lot of different angles. I could touch on the insurance piece, but I could touch on, your employees and what do they need to do and how do they fit into this picture? How does insurance fit into it? How does the cybersecurity tech focus into it? How does compliance and regulations fit into this whole thing? And I could focus on that and business and the business impact. And then I could let our team of engineers, CIOs, CISOs, they were the product I was selling.
Right.
And that's the really cool thing. And if you have, you always talk about sales, and similar to yourself, Mitch, you're selling yourself, right? If you believe in the product you're selling and the service offering, and those people actually deliver, they have a great reputation and a great offering, it's endless possibilities. So I luckily found that with Domain Technology Partners, and it's been off to the races ever since.
Right. And you're doing really the customer relation, business development side of the business, right? You're bringing in the tech people behind.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're going to market. We're building the network. We're building the brand. And we're doing across multiple. We've done a couple mergers now. So we're out of Baltimore as well. And now we're starting to expand nationally here to really bring our full-blown capabilities across the country.
So in the small to medium-sized business market that like I work in and my listeners listen to, and probably a lot of your listeners also, some of this stuff is obviously they have budget issues, but they also, does this really apply to me? I mean, do I really have to worry about this stuff? So what kind of mistakes on a pretty regular basis do you see companies, employees, executives making that exposes themselves, like unnecessarily?
Yeah, the number one is just that attitude that you just mentioned, is this isn't going to affect me. I don't have to think about it. And the interesting component of that is, if you really think, if you step outside the box real quick of the box that they're living in, it's they're thinking, I'm small, they want the Targets or they want the Sears or whatever of the world.
Right. But it
The
doesn't work
answer,
that way, does it?
no, the answer
Right.
is you don't have anything in place.
Right.
If I'm a kid or I'm a professional in this world, I know that I can target 10,000 New Jersey businesses.
Right. And you might just get caught up in that dragnet.
There's no technologies in place to stop me.
Right.
It's so much easier, right? I'm going to sit there on your device. The best example is real estate attorneys.
Okay.
3 to 5 person real estate shop, small
Right.
shop, doing their thing. They have their niche, right? Maybe I work from home. The best case I had of this was the owner of the firm. When he worked from the office, he used his work computer, his desktop. When he went home, he used his personal laptop. And he liked to go back and forth between his Gmail and his business email.
Okay.
And what the criminals did was very simple. He was doing a couple transactions or more every single month, and they got into his personal email and they just get the wiring instructions.
Right. They just watch the transaction as it's getting closer.
Yep.
And then they fake it, make it look. I've had clients get taken for that reason.
Yeah. So they sat there. He got the PDF with the wiring instructions. At that moment, that's when they took action. They changed it, sent it over to his legal secretary or whatever. She sent it off to the title company, and boom, they're sitting at the closing table, and the money's not there.
So he thinks that the wire instructions are correct. That's why everyone calls you to correct them, to verify them on the phone.
Yeah, and that's so think about this. This is a 3-person shop,
right?
And $450,000 was wired to the wrong place.
Oof.
And who's responsible? Your clients just lost 450 grand. And I don't care how big you are, nobody wants to have that conversation.
Malpractice doesn't cover that?
No, because that's professional liability.
And it's probably not big enough for the FBI to care. So,
correct.
But it's very big for you to care.
We have direct contacts within the Newark field office, as well as the New York field office of both the Secret Service and the FBI. And you have to hit the 7-figure digit number to really garner attention on there. And
Right.
they're just so overloaded. They can't.
Right.
Really
That's the problem. Yeah. Right. I think I had something, and I talked to the head of one of the chief crimes attorneys in Newark when we had something. I forget what it was. It was some sort of fraud, something. And they said, yeah, if it's under $500,000, I might get them to look at it. If it's over that, they're interested. And I said, well, this one's $3 million. Okay, let's set up a meeting. Type of a thing. But yeah, I think that's a huge thing. Well, I think that a lot of people, like you said, they don't realize how it's not like you and I go to a phone book. We go, all right, let's see. Sears is a big company. Target's a big, let's go after it. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
They're trolling. They got things out there. They're trying to hit something and they hit
They're
you and
it's crazy. They're getting grandmothers, right? Grandmothers with $10,000 and $30,000 that are getting cash and mailing it places. Like you can watch YouTube's videos on these things. You as a business owner, so it's the mentality around they're not coming after me, which the answer is they are coming after you because they know there's no levels of security in place and it's easier to break in.
Right.
And that's how they're thinking about it, and they can hit a lot more people. And it's so much easier for me to throw something on your computer, encrypt and put ransomware.
Not know about it, right?
And a price of Bitcoin. I was doing an interview this morning, and they're like, what are some of the new correlations? And it's like every time the price of Bitcoin goes through the roof, cyber attacks go through the roof. Because if I'm asking you for one Bitcoin a year ago, it's $20,000, and now it's $60,000. I just drastically improved my profits asking for the same amount of Bitcoin, let's call it.
Crazy. Yeah. Ransomware. I wouldn't even know how to get Bitcoin. I'd have to convert money or do something. Yeah. I don't think, I have obviously everything in place, but my data is not like that valuable. Like I don't keep anything online.
So let's talk about that.
I lost it. My whole practice. It would be difficult.
Yeah. So the
but
next
not
aspect of that
impossible.
is exactly that comment too, right? Like I don't have client data, or they don't want my client's data and whatnot.
Well, I'm not
And
saying they
the
don't want my client's data.
the answer is that potentially that could be true, right? You may not have much. Some businesses don't have much on their employees, but kind of like the real estate attorney example, you have vendors, you have
Yeah,
customers,
correct.
wires and
I do
transfers.
transactional stuff. Yep.
I just need to get in between the two of those and I'm good.
Right.
You
There's
know, I
no
don't
question
need
about it.
client data.
We don't do any wiring without things being confirmed. I had a client, friend of mine, I guess she worked for a very large law firm, and there was some things going on, a large transaction. The boss is out of town or traveling, whatever. She gets these instructions to do this. It looked, and she's been doing this for a long time. It looked like it was kosher, money gets wired out, and she lost her job. And
Yeah,
it was a shame. And she really shouldn't have, because it really wasn't her fault. But
exactly.
that stuff happens. I guess people still click on emails they shouldn't click on, right? Links that they shouldn't click on.
Yeah, email is still the number one threat vector. Every year over year, it's still we call it the human firewall. And you can use training and development and education to
Right.
help improve that. But yeah, we're
It's never
humans.
perfect.
We're moving fast, we're busy, we're clicking on stuff, we're downloading attachments. It happens. It definitely happens.
Yeah, well, it's the way. I had a crazy situation where I had a guy contact me for a purchase, a construction equipment sale. I forget how he even found me. I didn't ask at the time because it didn't get that far. And then when it got into it and I got a check, I was like, this is strange. It was like a bank check, and they wanted me to hold the money and then transfer some of it out. I said, okay, no problem. Listen, we never met. This is all through the internet. So I'll do my due diligence. You do yours. Give me a contact at your company. I'll call the buyer, this and that. Ghosted me.
Yeah.
Because it was a scam. And I eventually talked to the FBI, and they're like, yeah, this guy's been running this scam all over the country. There's an attorney who was taken for, I don't know, $250,000 or something. The bad check.
Yeah.
People don't understand. You could still write bad checks just because money clears 2 to 3 days through the Fed, by the banking regulations, does not mean it's cleared through the Fed.
Yeah.
Still takes a couple of weeks for it to come back as not good.
Exactly. We have companies do something similar in our industry as well. They'll reach out to us and they'll say, I want 5 servers, 5 laptops, and this. Can you quote it for me? And they'll work you all the way through the process of like buying it and all that kind of stuff. And we just got to the point where it's like we don't even respond to those requests anymore. It's not what we do. So
right.
We don't respond.
I got one the other day. I'm like, listen, I do that, but I've seen this scam before. Never heard from him again. But you gotta look. That's the word. Look, I don't think you and I feel that this is going anywhere. Like, it's always going to be an issue. It's going to get more. Look, will the security improve? Yes, but then there'll be people that figure a way around that next security. It's one made by one person. It's going to be broken by another person.
Exactly.
But you got to be, and I think from a legal standpoint, also, if you're in a situation where you do get taken, you want to be able to show that you were reasonable about it, that you took reasonable steps to, protect the data that you are entrusted with, whether you're a professional or, I mean, my dad gets a call from I guess it's Social Security, because he's on Social Security now, once a week, that a warrant has been issued for his arrest. Because, just for everybody listening, the IRS, the government, Social Security, Medicaid, they do not work that way. No, they're not coming to your house to arrest you on a Saturday, because they call it's a total scam. They mail things. They will show up at your place of business eventually. If you owe a lot of taxes, you got to go real far for that to happen. They'll usually send you a letter. They want an appointment. They're not going to call you and put a warrant out for your arrest. It just does not happen.
Yeah. And they go after vulnerabilities like that. They go after emotion.
Yeah, people don't know any better.
I like to tell people too, this is like, it's not the kid in the, we have this image. I don't know whether it's when we're growing up or movies portray this, but we have this image in our heads that the hacker is the kid in his mom's basement.
Right.
It's not the case. I mean, you can literally, I tell people to go and Google images of, they are professional office spaces with cubicles with 100 people in them.
Yeah.
And they are running the phones.
Well, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
Look, even they've done interviews even with these guys like in Nigeria that go into these cyber cafes, and they're just hundreds and sending these things out. They're totally poor. They're not sitting there like saying, let's rip some people off. They're saying, how do I pay my bills this month? And another buddy says, hey, if you do this internet thing, you make some money. They don't know any better. They're just trying to survive like everyone else. So you got to be You can't be trusted. Look, even my grandmother, may she rest in peace. She got scammed with something. She was like on her way to the post office to wire money to who she thought was my cousin, who was in Canada.
Jail.
Right. The person was in jail. This person said that they call up and they're like, Grandma, and Grandma goes, Robert? Yeah, it's Robert. It's Robert. It doesn't sound like you. Well, I have a little bit of a cough, but I'm on this trip and my wallet got stolen, and please don't tell Dad. And luckily, I forget who it was. Her friend took her to the bank, I think, to get the bank check. And the guy at the bank was like, does not make sense, and checked on some things and called the police, and then she never sent the money. But
yeah, my mom was a bank teller for a good period of time, and she helped stop, just because of talking with me, right? She helped stop a couple old people from doing.
Because you start noticing these things when you're trained for it.
So, Mitch, let's go into I think we got about 20 minutes left. So 2 topics. I think the future of work. I keep getting asked about the future of work, but based on the way you've built out your firm, I want to ask you too about the future of work. Where do you see this going after the whole pandemic? And even if you're deciding to build out your firm, like, how would you do it?
Well, I think in the legal profession itself, I don't want to build out my firm anymore. I tried that a couple of times. I don't want employees. I use virtual services now and stuff like that. But in terms of, I have met more and more and more attorneys that are solos or very small that want to work on a virtual digital footprint, that don't have office space. I use a co-working space. They use a co-working space when they want to. Yeah. We meet with clients on Zoom. They can work from a beach if they want to. I'm in a group called Deliberate Solos. I'm in another group called, forget the name of it, Thrive, Thrive at 5 attorneys, solo attorneys and this and that. And that's what we all do. And very few of us are the small firms. The individuals are really not keeping the brick and mortar that they used to, because we don't really need to it. Now, if you're a big litigator and you got a bunch of partners, you probably need some employees, you need somebody to manage your calendar. But even that is getting more and more automated. Nobody manages my calendar anymore. Just like you did for this, we send them a link. Yeah. I don't go back and forth anymore. They send up an appointment and then I talk to them in a couple of weeks. So if you refer me somebody, and I'll be like, Anthony, thanks for referring me. Michael, if you want to talk, consultations are free. Here's a link to my calendar. Pick a half an hour. We'll talk. I don't even talk to Michael until he's ready to go. And and it's definitely, I think, a better way to do business for small attorneys, for small business owners, for people that need basic wills and trusts and things like that. Why should they be paying for overhead? I mean, if you go to a big firm, let's say you go to, one of the top firms in New Jersey for business services, the corporate attorneys may be charging $6,000-8,000 in the city, $1,200 an hour. Yeah. That's not because, are they smarter than me? Yeah. They handle different transactions than I do. They handle much larger transactions. Maybe I've been doing this for 29 years. So now maybe we have the same amount of expertise, but they also have overhead. Yeah. They have employees, they have rent they're paying for, all this type of stuff that, as a solo practitioner who works with small business owners, I can do things at a price that other people can't do. Yeah. Then there's limits to what I will do, but that's a choice, not a necessity. So that's how I see things going.
A lot of sense.
Yeah, right? And everything's online nowadays. You don't need it to go to the library and sit in front of a computer and go on LexisNexis and do research and print out. It's all online. You can do it on your phone through Fastcase. It's just, I don't even have I shouldn't tell people this. I don't even have a service. I don't even subscribe to a legal service anymore. I don't litigate, right? So I don't need case law for the most part. I have 29 years experience. I don't need access to a library. I've tried to, these companies have been like, oh, but we have documents. I'm like, isn't that a problem if I need your documents and I've been doing this for 30 years? Well, things are always changing. Okay, but that's my job to keep up with it. So I don't need that stuff. So I pay for other services for my clients.
Yeah. No, I love that. Like the portal to have all, hold all the documentation and get access.
Yeah, because they never have things I'm looking for. Whenever I get involved, they can't find their business agreement. They're not sure if they have one. They show me their wills. I go, these aren't signed. You have, oh yeah, we pretty sure we have a signed copy. I'm like, yeah, that's a little important. Yeah. Just the copy that the attorney sent you as a draft that was never signed. Not going to do. Does your attorney have them? Where is he? I don't keep wills. Most attorneys keep wills. They don't have a safe, like in a basement where it's all safe from fire. It's in a cabinet somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shouldn't be. So you keep your own wills. Don't leave it with your lawyer.
No, I gotcha. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of the hybrid, right? We late last year, a lot of engagement with companies that are like, hey, I'm building out this professional service firm. We were 5 people a year ago, and now we're 15. And guess what? We have people in 7 different states because we decided we can hire talent wherever it is. It doesn't matter. So we're seeing that. We're seeing
well, cloud-based services made your industry a lot easier.
Oh yeah. Seeing a ton of movement on right now in terms of real estate, commercial real estate, right? And lowering overhead. So we've seen it actually we have 3 different directions. So number one, right off the top, I'm getting that out of my office. My lease is up. I don't need to renew my commercial, real estate. I can save all that money and maybe give it back to my employees in some sort of stipend or money to, improve their home office space.
Right.
So that's one. Another one is just the reduction of space. Hey, like this is what will happen at Domain when our lease is coming up. It's going to be, we used to have all this space. We don't need it. We have 3 people there now, right? We can build out maybe more of a,
it's not like you have a server farm for your clients that doesn't exist anymore.
Not there, right? So we will probably build out more of like what we call a multi-purpose room of like, so we can hold events and people can come meet, and that kind will be more of a focus for us than your standard just cubicles all over the place.
Yeah.
So there's the reduction. And then the final one is we have some clients that have actually expanded. They are taking,
depending on their industry.
Yeah, they're taking advantage of the lower real estate costs. They're exploding. They need more modern, newer space, and they're taking advantage of that. So it's a little bit about what we've seen in terms of the hybrid work experience.
It's funny how things have changed. I visited a company once in Pennsylvania. They were like a money management firm, whatever. And it was a big open space, and they had built the offices. So the data cables were like on these tracks. So they literally could like reshift around the office. They could unplug you, shift everything. Now they don't even need that anymore. Yeah. You don't need cables. It's all wireless Wi-Fi. Just slide over where you want to go, plug in or Bluetooth. I guess we won't need plugs anymore. It won't be Ethernet anymore once they fix the speed issues and stuff.
Yeah, you get to bring in 5G and 6G and all of that. You're not going to need wired anything anymore.
Yeah.
All right. Final topic
yes.
To wrap up is the accidental entrepreneur. So talk to us about the podcast, the launching of that, and what that's done for your networking and business.
Yeah. Well, so I still believe that, networking is the number one way to build your business and build your connections and, keep business coming in the door. But all the content marketing and the building of idea, thought leadership, and sharing things all supports that, right? Now, there are people that they sell things on the internet and they just got to advertise. But if we're local people, like you're working with people, I'm working with people, but I like podcasting because I find people interesting. I like to interview people. And for me, podcasting is my form of content creation. I'm not signing a deal with Spotify in the near future that I'm aware of. So, but it's got to be interesting and it's got to be compelling. I also found very early on that I better build this thing in a way that I could be consistent and keep putting out quality content, because a lot of this is a long game when it comes to content, right? So I go Tuesdays and Fridays. We have 2 episodes a week now, and I don't miss an episode because I know that I'll go off into the cyber abyss if I'm not putting out information. But it's not for everybody. Podcasting is not for everybody. If you like to blog, write a blog, but do it consistently. If you like to do videos, but do it consistently. And you got to keep putting data out there. I also find that if you're not sure about the whole podcasting thing, do podcast guesting. It's a very great way to build your company's notoriety, to build your own personal brand. There are thousands of us that are looking for guests all the time. There's podcastguests.com, Podmatch. Yeah. Listen Notes is a good directory to do searches with, or just do your own searches on Apple and Google and Spotify and Amazon. Find podcasts that you think are interesting and you think you have something to offer to that particular podcast, and send them a bit of a resume media type of package with your headshot and whatever. You'll be surprised. You send out 50 of them, I bet you get 40 back that want to interview.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with everything you said. Same reasons we bought it, right? It's what we call pillar content, right? It's a way for us to do pillar content. You can do audio only, you can do visual too, like we're doing right now. You can
Right.
go even further like we're doing right now and start live streaming, because people are on Facebook and they're on
Yeah.
YouTube and they want to stay on that platform. There's so many different ways, but pick your lane that you like doing, get your voice out there, stay consistent. And, then what I like to say is then break that down. You spend so much time making a podcast episode, doing a
Right.
30, 45-minute
Reuse
interview.
it, chop it up, send it out, use clips, post it. There's no question about it. So you can create a lot of content out of one episode. And I do find also, Anthony, somebody goes, they go, yeah, I was a guest on a podcast once, but nothing really came of it. Yeah, one time's not going to do it.
Nope. And as you know, we've been doing this. We launched this just almost exactly 2 years ago, 4/15 of 2019.
Okay.
So exactly 2 years, right? And 100+ episodes. And it's funny, same thing. They'll go like, how many downloads do you have? How many listeners do you have? This, that, and the other thing. I'm like, look, if you're coming on for that, I don't do it for that reason.
Right.
I do it to mutually create content together.
Right.
To share
That's
something
exactly
with
right.
the audience and give you recognition. And over time, this has built our brand. It's going to give you recognition. We're going to cross-pollinate audiences, and hopefully they get something out of it.
100%. That's definitely the attitude. I do the same thing. I'm like, listen, I don't know. I got 50, 75 subscribers, something like that. I've gotten up to 10,000 downloads total.
Yeah.
So we probably get a few hundred downloads a month. People listen to it. They don't download, whatever. But that, like you said, we're creating content that you can use, that we can use to do things with. And that's the game.
Yeah. All right. Mitch, any final questions, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think this is good. Let's get it. We'll republish it and repost it and share it and get our thoughts out there. Anybody's, looking for some advice on your industry or my industry, I'm always happy to talk to people, a peer, speak, just like you would. So we're available. My website's beinhackerlaw.com. We can post it in comments or something.
Yeah, we'll make sure it gets in the show notes too of the audio episode. So if I remember correctly, we'll get this. Obviously, this will live on our social channels.
Yep.
But it'll also go live on the Discussions by Domain podcast. And Mitch is going to post or cross-produce this over on the Accidental and Entrepreneur as well. So you'll see it over there. Definitely subscribe to his show. We'll make sure we link to the website, the podcast, all that stuff that we talked about in the episode today.
Fantastic. Anthony, great talking to you.
Awesome. Mitch, thank you so much, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
You're welcome.
See ya.